What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 101 of Sabre Real Estate's vlog, the first and inaugural episode of FutureProof. On today's episode, we have Ryan Serhant. I'm super excited about that. I could not have found a better guest to put on the first inaugural episode of FutureProof. He is one of the top producing real estate brokers in the world, and he's a vlogger. He has a media company, Serhant Media, Sell It Like Serhant. He's got a television show. He's on $1 Million Listing. This guy's doing it big, and I cannot wait to tear it up with him. Enjoy the episode.
People calling me up saying they need a feature, saying we can help each other, but I see the leeches. Get the credit where it's due, I ain't talking Visa. But since we talking Visa, don't say you won't pay me either. Did you catch that?
Check out all the gear. This one is my personal favorite. I've used that line before. So I am here with the one and only Ryan Serhant. Let's kind of start with the whole concept of the brokerage models changing.
Sure.
Right? So a big part of FutureProof is, in my opinion, today you don't necessarily have to work for the biggest firm on the planet.
Yeah.
You can have a great personal brand, have the resources of, the support of a company, or develop those support systems yourself, which
Sure.
I have.
Sure.
But I've obviously grown my company into a fairly sizable organization at this point.
Yeah.
But what's your take on where the brokerage business is going and the traditional model?
I used to think that the traditional model was just going to die. I think a year ago, we were at the Agent 2021 conference, and I was like, the traditional brokerage model is over, it's dead and gone. And then a bunch of brokerages failed after that, both traditional and non-traditional.
Right.
Because individual salespeople, right, they are the ones who create the business, but they also need a home. And so, and homeowners and purchasers, they want to be handheld with the best. So I've kind of honestly started to backtrack on my thinking, because it's not like Fidelity, Schwab, and E-Trade have made Goldman Sachs go away.
Right.
It's just Goldman Sachs has adapted itself, and they've updated, and they've continued to stay the best given where technology in the future is taking them. And people trust them even more,
right,
because they're so good at it. So maybe what's going to happen is the best brokerages will just adapt their model, will adapt how they pay commissions, will adapt to the future, or they will be completely eaten up and destroyed,
Sure.
which will happen to most.
And I think a big part of when The Real Deal put out the death of brokerage, back in March, I think, of last year, it was a lot of that was around town,
Yes.
shutting up
Falling,
shop.
yeah.
What would you attribute that to? Like, what do you think? I mean, overhead, just...
Yeah, 100% overhead. It's how do you compete with a company like Compass that makes no money?
Right.
If you look at Compass's
That's
numbers,
worth billions.
According to who?
Exactly.
Look at how much Element is worth now,
Right.
based on what Dottie sold for.
Right.
If Element is worth $140 million, how in the hell is Compass worth billions?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. And you need to be able to steamroll yourself through down markets as easily as you can grow yourself in up markets.
Sure.
And that's when new brokerages pop up all the time. It's like, oh, things are selling. Oh, that was Town, Compass, all these firms, they pop up when things are selling all the time. But what do you do when things stop selling? How are you going to keep the lights on? How are you going to pay all your admins? All the fancy stuff, the concierge services, the chocolate that you give your agents. How are you going to do all that stuff when the agents stop producing because the market slows down? And so I think 2019 will be a real telling year for the future of the brokerage.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. What is your take on developing a personal brand in real estate? How important is it, and why?
It's probably the most important thing that I have, and that my individual team members have, in their ability to attract business, because salespeople, our whole job all day long is to generate leads. That is it. We don't turn on lights. We don't market. Like we do that stuff as part of the job, which is generate leads. And we don't have product. Like we're not selling computers,
Sure.
right? We're not selling some sort of insurance. Like we literally are just brokers connecting two different people, a buyer and a seller, a landlord and a tenant. Like that is it.
Yeah, we're like a middleman.
So then what do you have to actually sell? And that's your personal brand. Otherwise, they'll work with somebody else. Now listen, it doesn't mean, I think when you say like personal brand, people think like, how big is your social media following? Or that guy's really funny, so that's why he has a brand, or what have you. But that's not like the case at all. There are brokers with amazing personal brands who I don't think could have a conversation with a human being.
Sure.
But they are so smart and they know everything about the market, and that's their brand.
Right.
Like you want to hire the broker who knows absolutely everything about everything and knows who lives where, when that lease is up, you're going to that guy.
Sure.
You're not going to take him to dinner because he will bore the hell out of you. But that's his brand and you're cool with it. Other people might not want to work with that guy. They're going to work with, this woman who is, on the scene socially. She knows absolutely everybody, but she has a good admin staff behind her that has all the data, and that's who they want.
Sure.
Right? So that's like the personal brand is just taking who you are and putting it on steroids and then making sure everybody knows it.
Right. So I think, a personal brand is basically a reputation, right? Or an extension of your reputation, what you're known for.
Yeah.
And I gave a talk recently at an ICSC convention about branding and developing a personal brand. And I asked the room of people, who here has a personal brand? And very few people raised their hands. And I laughed and said, that's interesting, because I think everybody has a personal brand, whether you're focused on developing it or not is a different story. And if you're not, you probably have less control than you should over what your brand is and what your point of differentiation is and why someone is going to go to you or me versus somebody else that does what we do, right?
Yes.
Well,
Cool.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you again. Absolutely. Thanks
sure.
so much. Appreciate
Thanks,
it. Yep. Thank you.
Takeaways from the podcast with Ryan, he was very vocal about, the vulnerability of the brokerage business as a whole. A year ago, we couldn't have found a better guest for the first episode of FutureProof, for the first podcast, so it was interesting also to kind of hear him talk about how, like, when he started in the business in 2008, it was, the market was obviously terrible. And I feel like that enabled him to get used to, working really hard in a difficult environment. So, as things started to get better, it became easy. He alluded to that. That was my experience a little bit too. We're in Soho. We're gonna go check out Kith. It's one of the premier, streetwear retail stores in the world, and you'll see why. So we just recorded the first episode of the FutureProof podcast. You're watching the first episode of FutureProof, the vlog, and I think it was really, really interesting to get Ryan's perspective on the brokerage business as a whole, how it's changing, his take on a down market opportunity when other people are vulnerable, in a positive way, not rooting for anybody's demise, obviously. How he incorporates his reputation, goes in on what he's good at, and overall, obviously being very exposed, having a vlog, having his book, having 2 television shows, he's operating at a different level and using any resource he possibly can to increase his business. And that's his goal at the end of the day, and he made that clear. And I think that, his drive and determination are unmatched. I think that a lot of people who watch these episodes watch what we're doing, think that I'm insane and I work a lot and I'm all over the place. And when I look at someone like Ryan, I feel like I'm barely working hard and barely out there, so to speak. So very inspirational, very meaningful first episode of Future Proof. I hope you enjoyed it.